Whakaroa ka mai, na mihi nui kia koutou katoa. E mihi ana au ki na mana whenua huri noa, Tāmiki Makaurau. Ko Alec Tang toko ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora everybody, great to see everyone here. My name is Alec Tang and I'll be facilitating the conversation, the kōrero this evening around an inequitable transition. Where to from here? Auckland Conversations is providing this opportunity to inspire and stimulate our thinking about these challenges that face Tāmiki Makaurau. And tonight what we want to do is explore this concept of equity challenges that many at that leading edge of climate action are seeking. We want to talk about the lessons we have learned or need to learn from our recent experiences of society shaping disruption. So thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you for those of you who've made the trip down here to Manukau. This is a departure from usual Auckland Conversations, and I thought a really important departure to move out from the central city. Thank you also for those of you joining online. I know that there was quite a significant interest in here, so I'm thinking there's lots of you tuning in from home or wherever you are. And also, welcome to those who are watching this recording. The event is being co-sponsored by KPMG New Zealand and the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment, many of whom are based in other parts of the world. So kia ora, welcome to the recording if you're tuning in belatedly. Just a couple of bits of housekeeping before we kind of truck on. The bathrooms, if you haven't found them, at the top of the stairs to the left-hand side, just near where you came into the kind of the communal area. In the unlikely event of an emergency, you'll hear an alarm, and there are emergency exits down here at the bottom front of the stage, as well as at the top back of the stage. The meet point is Hayman Park, and you will find Hayman Park because it's got a lovely new playground. So congregate over at Hayman Park. I'd probably suggest you don't try out all the swings and the roundabouts and the slides until we know that everyone is safe and secure. Just for context, those of you who did come by train, the trains carry on through the evening, but the last direct train into the central city leaves at about 7:15, so that will take you straight back into Britomart. There are trains after 7:15, but they require a transfer on the Southern Line, either at Otahuhu, or if you haven't been there, go check out the Puhunui station. That's a really nice building to go and have a look around as you wait for your connection. We are going to aim to be closed up around 7:30, something along those lines. So if you do need to make that 7:15 train, then obviously just head out as quietly as you can. Finally, if you could please turn all mobiles to silent, but leave them on so that you can post on social media, and I'll come back to that in a second. And/or we'll be using Slido to field the questions. So I'll explain a little bit more about Slido in a second. But before we go into more details about tonight, about this evening, I'd like to invite Johnny Freeland of Ngāti Te Ata Waiohua, who are the iwi host partners for the Auckland Climate Festival, to open with some words and a karakia.
Tēnā tātou, e mihi kauna kia tātou i te pōnei, e mihi kauna ki ngā maunga whakahi, mā tuku te reia. Ki te wai o Pūnui e riri nei ki te Manuka Hotiroa, ki te haukainga o te Waiohua, Ngāti Tamo Oho, Te Aki Tai, Ngāti Te Ata nō reira, tēnei te mihi. Kia ora everybody, as Alec introduced me, my name's Johnny Freeland. I'm wearing a number of hats tonight, but certainly one of the most important ones is just as one of our iwi representatives of Ngāti Te Ata, who are our co-host for the Auckland Climate Festival this year. And just over a week ago, we had our dawn launch, up at near the headwaters of the Pūnui stream, which is up in the Botanical Gardens. And just acknowledging the mahi that's happening within the Puanui. I think there's up to 30 groups now, agencies and community groups that are working together around the regeneration of the well-being of the stream and its peoples. And it's only a 12.6 kilometre stream, but it's got 2 motorways that cut across it and a railway line. We have the most pristine part of our catchment up in the upper catchment around the botanical gardens. And then we follow the concrete to the harbour, and we've got a middle bit that's sort of a mixture of social housing, Kāinga Ora housing, commercial, the Manukau City, the town centre, and then the third of the catchment, when you get past State Highway 20, we also happen to have our 2 ancestral maunga there. One's literally a hole in the ground now, Matuku Te Ruru, that was quarried, and Matuku Te Rea almost looks like a step pyramid, but 2/3 of it was quarried, and so that's our contribution to the motorway and a lot of the main trunk line in terms of the use of the scoria. But nevertheless, it represents our whakapapa, and it's a good indicator in our belief system that the state of our people reflect the state of the environment. And certainly in terms of climate change, the opportunity to come together to talk about an equitable or inequitable transition, certainly from our experience as iwi, but also people of South Auckland. I think there's an important contribution that we can make to that conversation. So, e roto i tēnā, e mihi kauna kia tātou. E tui ki te rangi, tui ki te whenua, tui ki te moana, tui te here tangata, e rongo te pō, e rongo te ao, a tihei Māori ora. Kia ora tātou.
Thanks, Johnny, and appreciate you opening us up and also being part of the panel discussion later on. As Johnny highlighted, this event, whilst being an Auckland Conversations event, is also part of a wider movement for Aucklanders around climate. Really proud that this event is being hosted as part of the Auckland Climate Festival, which is a citywide month of climate actions and activations. By being here, you're part of that Auckland Climate Festival whānau. I know I can see a few of you have been to a number of events and are hosting events, which is fantastic to see. And a key part of that is to try and inspire and highlight that actually, whilst when we think about climate action, climate change, often we feel like we're acting in isolation or that there's not enough happening, which there arguably isn't enough happening, but that's not to say that there isn't anything happening. So that's a really important part of why we're here for this corridor, for this conversation. As Johnny kind of alluded to, this year's festival theme is Ngā Hua o Wai, which encourages us to think and to consider about our relationship with the natural world, with water, with real taonga like the Puhinui, and how we can use that to strengthen our climate response. So please check out the Auckland Climate Festival program. We are, as Johnny highlighted, just one and a bit weeks into the month. So there's plenty more to get involved in if you go to aucklandclimatefestival.co.nz. Today's events actually, as part of that climate festival, have sought to look at the Maramataka Māori lunar calendar as well, and you'll be interested to know that today's lunar phase is O Māori, which lends itself towards community-based activities. Ki tai, by the sea, drawing on the Māori of the Moana. So we're not too far away from the sea. The other thing to note is that our catchment that we are in and around, and each of the Auckland Climate Festival events have looked at catchments, is Te Manuka Nuka or Hautuaro Manukau Harbour catchment. We'd like to acknowledge the communities of this catchment as well as the waterways that traverse through it. So tonight, what we're going to do is the format for this evening's proceedings is the first thing is that we're going to have David Hall, a Climate Policy Director at Toha, to talk through a few of his reflections. So those of you who don't know David, he brought together a really interesting series of essays called Careful Revolution Towards a Low Emissions Future, and that was back in 2019, pre-COVID. And so David's going to talk to us a little bit about his reflections from that point, what he's seen in terms of this concept of a just transition, and maybe some lessons and observations and so on. After David's had a little corridor with you all, I'll invite the rest of the panelists to come along and I'll introduce them later. And we'll have a bit of a discussion and we'll have a Q&A where you, the audience and those of you online, have the opportunity to pose your questions to the speakers. We do have a limited amount of time, so please, if you do have a question, keep them to the point, and if you'd like to direct them to a specific member of the audience, of the panel, then please kind of highlight that in your question. We will be using Slido. Those of you who haven't used Slido, I think there's a slide up there to highlight. It's an interactive Q&A tool. If you go to slido.com, using whatever tablet device that you have, enter the event code, which is #equity, and you will find our series of questions or platform to provide those questions. If you can't make that work, or if you're having trouble connecting, then one of the team here, if you want to give a wave, has a tablet, has a device that if you're having trouble, just pop your hand up and she'll come and help, and we can get your questions lodged that way. Last couple of things before I open up and provide the conch. I was talking about the conch to David. You are welcome to tweet during the event and encouraged to engage on social media. Use that hashtag Auckland Conversation or AKL Conversations or Climate Action or ACF23 to tag your posts, whichever platform you're choosing to use these days. We are always trying to ensure that the Auckland Conversations event is inclusive and accessible, so an on-demand viewing of the event with a full transcript and captioning of the event will be available on that Auckland Conversations website in the next few days.